Welcome to Power Up, the podcast that uncovers the unique challenges women leaders face today. Join your hosts, Nat and Kristen, as we dive into the tough topics and provide actionable insights you can apply right now. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. The relationship with your manager is the most predictive factor of job satisfaction, career progression, and whether you'll quit in the next 12 months. We've heard this a lot. Managers are key in your happiness, or I suppose sadness.
Sadness. Yeah. Well, and we also know, I think some research that I read recently is that 1 in 2 people quit over their manager. And it's such an interesting dynamic because I think one of the things that we forget when we talk about our manager is that that relationship, like any, is a two-way street. We're actually both responsible for the success of it. But because of that weird power imbalance, we think it's not weird. It is a power imbalance. We think it's their job to make it successful and put ourselves in a really passive position.
It's so interesting because no one ever teaches you how to be managed. And I know that sounds weird, but it's true. Like the fact that you just said it's a two-way street, no one ever tells you that, first of all. And you are managed from a very early age in life where it often tends to be hierarchical. Like you know nothing in university and you're learning how to do these jobs, and then you enter the career force and you really know nothing. Of course, you bring your unique perspective, but no one ever teaches you that you actually have power and influence and a voice and a perspective, and this is how you might use that in a work context. But equally, no one ever teaches a manager how to manage. Most are promoted because they're good at their previous role, and I think I read a stat where they get, on average, 4 hours of people leadership training in a given month.
There is a whole bunch of research on this. We still prioritize technical skills over all else, even though when you actually ask around, the biggest challenges people face in their jobs and in their relationships are not technical. Like we all know how to do the work. It's how we navigate relationships, how we influence, how we get our voice heard, how we figure out and solve problems. And none of that is taught. And we instead focus on, wow, they can solve this through their technical know-how. They're a good architect. They're a good accountant. And plonk them in a role that doesn't really need those skills at all. It actually needs great leadership skills.
So we're here to hopefully help both sides of the equation a little bit today, just with some aha moments and learnings in our lives and what we've picked up from our Powrsuit community. You're right, it is a two-way street. So what does it look like to be managed and take control of that situation? But equally, all the people leaders that are listening, make it easy. You can also make it easy.
Make it easy. And one of the things that I've been talking to a few of our fabulous Powrsuit partners about is how the role of managers in Powrsuit, like it's all fine and good for our members to be building these self-leadership skills and actually learning a lot of skills that their managers as well have not been taught. But if they're coming up against a manager who hasn't learned these skills, who doesn't see the great role of one-on-ones, giving and receiving feedback, they're uncomfortable with having direct conversations, then that puts a lot of onus on our members. But it also means their managers often underestimate the power of professional development because they've never received it unless it's to do compliance-based training or technical-based training. So they're actually not super supportive, even if they're unconsciously so. They're not super supportive of our members investing in themselves, but also applying what they learn in the office because they don't see it as valuable because they haven't had the opportunity to experience it either. So I find that really interesting that we see managers as so different from us, like they must have got there and therefore know everything. But actually the harsh truth of it is, if you are a Powrsuit member, you're probably learning skills that your manager may not have.
Yeah, no, I love that. And just a little last thought that came to mind before we jump into a couple big aha moments is in managing up and how to manage up is that it is okay if you never become a people leader. It's so interesting that it's ingrained in us that you go from being a individual contributor and you get promoted to being a people leader. It is okay if you don't like it. If you've done a strengths test and coaching isn't in your like top 10 skill set, nor do you want to flex that muscle and learn how to develop people, then like you don't have to do it. Like you can have a crazy successful career without being a people leader. And I just think it's okay to not want to be it and to not be it. But it's funny how we just assume that's the latter.
Well, and that's why we have so many managers getting Powrsuiters in a pickle, the managers don't see their role as looking after people. They see
Yeah.
people as sort of an inconvenient addition because they've become a people leader because it's the next step up the hierarchy,
Yeah.
not because they have this real passion for leading and developing and helping the people below them get successful. And it's a
Mm.
really interesting light bulb moment, I think, for a lot of people who get into these roles that they suddenly go, oh, I don't like this part of the role. And it's like, yep. Great. Well, there's a lot of other options out there. And sadly, we still live in a world where technical skills and staying purely in a technical role is not always rewarded as much as people
Mm.
leadership. But it does feel like, especially in innovative companies, we are heading there and starting to recognize there is no point putting a square peg into a round hole.
And my brain flip-flopped on one thing you said, would be keen to hear your thoughts. If you don't want to, yeah, lead and coach and help others perform, I think sometimes what happens is one, organizations don't set managers up to succeed because their delivery expectations of them are crazy in addition to managing a team. So that could be a scenario. Another scenario could be the person never learns how to go, we have to deliver this stuff as a team. So I'm going to delegate and all of that stuff as well. So I think there's a few things playing out, but another podcast episode for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all of this to say that we're not saying here managers are perfect and it's all on you. What we're saying is the reality of the world is there is a bunch of factors that probably mean whoever is your boss is probably A, hasn't been set up for success, B, has probably formed some bad habits as a result, and may and C, doesn't know some of the skills that you will be learning
Yes.
through even listening to this podcast. So that doesn't mean that you are completely in the right all the time, because dynamics are dynamics, but but we're not saying here it's all on you. We are saying you can take more control over this dynamic, though, than many of
Yeah.
us realize.
So my first kind of mindset shift and point is that neither of you, you or your manager, can succeed without the other. And I think that's a really important realization, in that your manager needs you to succeed in order for them to succeed. And therefore they have power over your daily experience and what you do, but you have power over their success. It is very much a two-way street.
Yeah, and seeing yourself as a team is really important there. I don't think people tend to think of themselves as a team with their manager. And that idea of success is really interesting because sometimes we forget that success looks very different to different people. Your idea of success might be landing your next role, it might be delivering a project, it might be whatever is top of mind for you. And for them, success could look very different. So getting clear, and this is a really easy action to take, asking your manager what success looks like for them.
Yeah.
Most people don't do that, but if you were to
No.
ask them every month, what does success look like for you this month? How do I better help you get to that success? You may find that the reason there's complications in your dynamic is you are both running in totally different directions and prioritizing totally different things. Whereas coming back together and going, we now have a joint understanding of what success looks like, and we are working as a team to get there. Even if you don't like each other to start, that may help you like each other a little bit more.
And even just asking, how does my daily work tie into that? Like how is what I'm doing day in and day out tie into your success?
Absolutely.
And what could change, or what might you like done slightly differently? I think getting curious, love that tip. Easy action.
What is it? Assuming makes an ass out of you and me. I actually really like that statement. One of the things that we've literally just covered, you've got maybe quite different ideas of what success looks like, what the big challenges are, what the day-to-day priorities are, what your values are. Like all of those things are probably, if you're struggling with your manager, they're probably looking quite different. My suspicion is what most people do in this situation is just make a whole bunch of assumptions about that. My manager doesn't support me. My manager doesn't like me. My manager's too busy. My manager doesn't care about this. My manager's a micromanager, whatever it is, rather than actually stopping and saying, what does success look like for you, and vice versa. So it's sort of a tie into that, to the first one, but it is interesting how quickly we make assumptions about who someone is based on a very small amount of evidence of what they do.
Yeah. Conversely, don't forget that they're probably making assumptions about us as well. They're making assumptions about how busy we are, what we're working on, the goals that we have, what success looks like to us. Like they are casting the whole same picture on us, that we like certain types of work. And unless you speak up and share it, we can assume they're assuming as well, and then we're all asses. I love this quick little action. I love that you put an action up top about get curious and ask what success looks like. My action for this one would just be to start with being really transparent about what you're working on. And that could be simple as an email. So it could be this week, I completed these 3 key things. Next week, I'm focusing on this priority. And then you might just put, I need you to unblock the stakeholder, I need this financial statement delivered, whatever that might be. And then if they want context, and we're going to get to that next, how they want to be communicated with, then add any context. But I love that bullet points of this is what I'm working on, this is what's next, this is how you can help me. And I think that's a really great start to dialogue about what is keeping you busy and what you're delivering.
I think one of the most powerful ways you can show self-leadership and ownership over your work is to tie those 3 key priorities or the things you achieved back to your shared understanding of success. Because I've noticed that managing people throughout my career, I'm constantly shocked by that when they don't understand that's the priority. And so they'll be like, this is what I've worked on this week. And I'm like, what? Why did you work on that this week? We're trying to focus on this thing. And it's really easy to, at a high level, go, great, we're all focused on this. But actually, I had a lot of meetings this week and I had this pet project I was working on, or someone gave me this piece of work. And the actual detail of the work you do gets very quickly out of sync. So those 3 things should be, at least 2 of them, directly pointing to the success that you've agreed to. And you should keep tying it back to that, because over communication, well, I suppose that brings us to point 3. Over communication is really helpful.
And styles vary. So this is where some managers just want an executive summary and others want every detail. Some make decisions really quickly. Others need to process and think and take it in and will get back to you in 24 hours. Some give direct feedback, and others hint at what they want. And so the point, I think, with all humans and relationships is it's our responsibility, and it should be everyone's responsibility, to crack the code of the other person, to determine what is going to land in what medium. Is it email? Is it our one-on-one? Is it grabbing them in the hallway? And how can I crack their code of what do they need? What types of information do they need? How do they like to get it? And what do I need from them? And how do I share that? Asking someone for a decision on the spot who actually needs time to process is unfair. And you just say, here's the information. Could we chat tomorrow? And you could make a call on this. That would be great. That would be cracking your manager's code and managing up.
That to me really highlights what we're trying to convey here about changing your mindset, that the idea of manager often makes us all think it's their job to manage me. It's their job to hand everything to me on a silver platter. And that's absolutely okay if that's how you want to approach this relationship. The easiest and fastest way to showcase value and get those promotions and become indispensable is to actually flip that mindset on its head and go, how do I take control of this relationship and make it successful and crack their code? Really owning that is such a fast track to success. And so I love what you said about some of the managers, what they want and what they don't want. A caveat to that as well is often that changes depending on your behavior. So I know my goal is just to have the executive summary, but if I am in a position with someone who does get off track or distracted or is constantly overwhelmed, I want much more detail than that until I can see that they are on the right path. So you actually, if you want more, I think the concept of autonomy is slightly stuffed at work, because there is no such thing as autonomy in an organization. You are an organization of moving parts that need to operate together. But if you want to have more scope to be able to go and do things on your own, building that trust with your manager that you are going to deliver to the standard that they expect towards the success that you're both working towards will be your fastest path to having a little bit more flex there. So I love this one of recognizing that it's on you to communicate, and secondly, getting really clear on how it works for them and delivering that.
And we shouldn't overlook asking for help either. If you're finding yourself not meeting your deliverables or not working on stuff that you love that flexes your strengths or your superpowers, or if you see an area where you can add more value, I think it's okay to, in those conversations, ask for their help, because that actually is their responsibility. Like if you were to chat to any CEO at any organization, they would go, So what do they say? I want to have it's like the people on the bus, right? I want to have the right people on the bus, sitting in the right seats, going in the right direction. I had to put
And
that
they're all
accent.
American and maybe Southern American.
I'm just thinking, I went yellow school bus. I'm like, that's in North America. That's what the CE wants. And so therefore the managers are tasked with making sure the right people are using their right skills, doing the right jobs and the right delivery. So you can ask them, hey, I've noticed that I haven't been able to deliver this on time. I think it's because I'm being pulled into too many meetings. Can you help me navigate these things and what I can say no to? Or can you help me reprioritize these things? Because I've been asked to deliver far too much is what humanly possible in a week. So asking for their help in that way, can you help me solve this problem, and getting together very quickly and chatting, that is the job of a manager. And if you don't like that, then don't do that. Don't do it.
No, I agree. I think the only tweak I would make is rather than going and saying I've been given far too much for a human to be able to achieve, I think going in with like curiosity into that and saying, I'm really struggling to deliver all the stuff on my plate. I would love to have a conversation with you about how this can be better managed, and it may be a time management issue on your side. It could well be really open to that. Or it could be that there's a whole bunch of work on your plate that's invisible to them that they didn't know that you were even grappling with. And so really just going in curious and asking for genuine help, not defensively and not going, I want to prove that I've got way too much on and I'm overwhelmed, is a really nice way to tackle that and build that relationship that is actually focused a lot more on not necessarily vulnerability, but being really comfortable going, how do we work together as a team to figure this thing out? I'm not fully relying on you and saying it's your problem, get it sorted for me. I'm coming with solutions, I'm coming with thoughts, but I actually am comfortable asking for what I need. Often and especially if you can in advance of a pickle. The
Yes.
sooner the better.
And so I suppose the action for this one might just be like practice. So try to observe, get curious about how that person likes to be communicated with, get clear on what you need, and then use those moments or those mediums, those channels to express just that, and try to practice adapting and trying to get into a cadence where you feel heard. And you have enough to do your job well. So I think it's just experimentation about comms, like being open to trying a few different things.
Yeah, and I think one of the greatest things about being a power suitor is you can drop us. Like, say, hey, I've been investing in my professional development through the Power Suit podcast. The action that they've suggested I tried this week is, and you could pick from either one of those three things. I would like to ask you what success looks like and how I can better contribute to it. That could be one question. Or I would like to ask you what would be the best way for me to be able to show you what I'm working on any week, so not getting out of that assumption mode. Or thirdly, tell me the best way for me to communicate updates with you. Like three very simple questions, wrap it in a statement about how you are investing in yourself and go forth. The final thing I'd like to say though, and this has been playing on my mind when we talk about managers, is there is, like we said at the top, a lot of poorly trained, a lot of, they're humans too, lots of issues. Every now and again, you will come up against someone who is an unmovable force in your path, and they could either have been in poor habits for so long that they're not open to change, a really fixed mindset. It could be a real personality clash. And every now and again, narcissists do exist. I think we overuse that term, but I tend to find every now and again there is one in an office and they cause absolute mayhem to the people that they target. One of the questions that came up in the membership network in the last couple of weeks is, when is it time to walk away? And I feel like the reason we like to share these tips is sometimes we are quick to jump to they're a narcissist or they're a bully or whatever without actually trying to resolve it. But if you do try these things and genuinely try them and try a few different experiments, and every single time you get shut down and you're feeling miserable, it is actually okay at that point. You don't have to continue with trying to figure out what you can do. I think, like, I've noticed that with some of our members, they really flagellate themselves effectively, like, I've got to keep trying and it's a failure if I don't figure this out. And that's actually not always true, right?
No, 100%. I actually haven't left a job because of a manager, but it's more the situation. Like, and I've had some terrible managers. I was thinking, categorizing them in my brain the other day, and one was the very busy, often male, exec, and I reported right into a VP at a very young age, which was strange. And so I got, maybe 5 minutes a month of their time, and and they left me alone. And I did have weird autonomy, but I was also hugely self-motivated and I don't know, somehow it kind of worked out for me to have those types of people. That said, I didn't know what success looked like for them, and I didn't know how to ask that. So this would have been hugely helpful. The other type of manager
Can
I
I
had
just
was,
interrupt before you continue with the second one though? Because I disagree. I think that's like not fair to put a young person in a
yeah,
position that they get 5 minutes. Like I actually think that is an attitude that's really outdated. Like that managers, not yours, that's really outdated and leads to a lot of managers not investing in their people. Like they're really capable, they're ambitious. I can wipe my hands of them. It is your responsibility. And you would have been better off with a manager who actually stepped in there and helped you develop and helped
totally.
you find things. So, like,
And
yes, you were fine, you got through, but imagine what could have happened if they'd done a good job.
And that probably to your point of being outdated, we're talking a long time ago. I'm dating myself.
5 years
Okay.
when you were
Yeah.
21.
Yeah. Like just yesterday. And then the other person it was very busy women. And I often unfairly were like, oh man, they're not very kind and they're micromanaging. But what I realized now was the pressure that was on them to deliver and to do a full-time, very senior delivery job and then manage a team of people. No wonder they were not the best managers. So that was very tricky situation to navigate and didn't make me leave, but certainly gave me anxiety, which was not nice. Okay,
But they
so
have delegated better out of interest. Do you think that, like, when you say they had a full-time job, did they? Because I'm always curious, like, if their job is delivery, surely their team is meant to be doing a lot of that doing.
yeah, we were doing a lot of that doing. I think it was unreasonable expectations. And part of it could have been the whole concept of like women. They're like, oh, I know, we'll give her a full-time job, high pressure job, and a team of people. And I'm not
Mm.
suggesting men don't get that, but
Well, they
yeah.
may just like not take care of the team at
Yeah,
all.
I don't know. Yeah, it was tricky environments too. So, anyway, never mind. Here we are. But I would like to just
You made
end.
it. You scraped
We,
your way through.
I made it. Oh my goodness, I made it. But I want to end on a quote, and I'm going to lead into this quote with what Nat and I love as part of Powrsuit is to assume positive intent. Ask yourself, what is it like to be them? And everything that's happening is not because of you. Assume that they have good intentions when it comes to you and your role and your future, but they may just not know it, or they may just be under huge pressure. And so start to build the relationship, social capital, put money in the relationship bank. Oh my gosh, that's so cheesy. I am going to just end with it's a quote from Mary Abijay, and it is a book called Managing Up. So I do like this quote, and it is, when we come from a place of judgment, we become stuck in our own worldview. When we come from a place of curiosity, we expand our range of possibility.
I love it
Yeah.
because, yeah, perfect ending. Because I think with the manager thing, it is really easy to live in frustration and feel powerless, but it's actually you are the one who's most severely impacted by it. And often the person who feels the pain the most is in the best situation to solve it because you are the most motivated to do it. So
Yeah.
I love this as a challenge to go, what action can I take to really say I've put my best effort into delivering my half of this relationship?
Yes, check out powrsuit.com. Come and join the membership network. We're having a great time. It's a party over here.
Well, actually,
So
do you know what? I was actually thinking that particularly with this
yeah.
topic, that there's been a lot of in the network. I don't know if everyone knows this, but once you become a member, you get access to our membership network, which has a whole bunch of fabulous weekly events that you can pick and choose from. But we also have like it's not Slack, but imagine it like Slack or Teams where we have people chatting. You can meet and chat with other Powrsuiters. And one of the things is that you can ask an anonymous question. So no one knows it's you. So if it's something that's particularly scary and you don't want anyone to know where you work, that's fine. No one ever has to. But some of these topics get really curly. And one of the things that I've noticed in the last 6 months, particularly, is every one of these questions gets 5 or 6 genuinely strong comments on them from people who've been there, done that, who put their hand up offering support, and people follow through and end up having some really curly, hard stuff solved through the power of community. So I think it's something we don't really talk about a lot when we talk about Powrsuit, but we watch that every day of people connecting and helping each other solve their problems.
Yeah.
And it's fine to listen to a half hour of us on a podcast, but that's where the real change comes from. When you've got like 2 people who've just been through what you've been through, who can tell you what worked for them. It's really nice.
Yeah, totally. Agreed. Stay tuned, subscribe, share this podcast with a friend, and we'll catch y'all next time. Bye.